And speaking of supply chain disruption, obviously the dairy industry was not immune um, to to the disruptions caused by COVID. And I'm wondering whether you can talk about some of the challenges that the industry faced, from the pandemic. What's the current state of play on, container and truck availability, and whether you have any suggestions for the administration to address the issue.
Yeah, we were not immune. And, like many others in agriculture, we've been really hurting lately. For dairy, it's not just a matter of container availability or of the pandemic displacing food service outlets domestically. What started with a massive influx in online shopping and consequently imports from overseas somehow ballooned into ports becoming overwhelmed, Chinese shippers returning with empty containers back to Asia, um, in order to service Asian exports quicker. That compounded quickly downchain to facilities seeking to export being unable to get truckers who could get their products into the port for export promptly, or if they could, are being told to wait 6 weeks or more for an export vessel booking. That delay has led to rail sightings filling for weeks on end across the middle of the country, with products simply sitting and waiting for a green light to finally head to the coast. These circumstances have also created complexities for our companies who import. They say they have importing vessels sit at anchor for weeks outside the port while they wait for a terminal to become available for offloading. And even then, they might only receive a couple hours notice to actually offload the vessel, which is really hard to swing when your truck drivers for offloading the goods are stuck in a line of trucks to access the port that's several hours long, if you even have a truck driver available. So
Right.
if you add to all this the fact that some ports are charging demurrage for containers waiting for a departing vessel, and some carriers are exporting goods that are they're offloading agricultural goods that are perceived to be not as high value. Plus the labor restrictions COVID has created for port workers, the situation is beyond frustrating for our members, and they've been telling me this week in particular that they expect it to get much worse before it gets better, as the truck to driver ratio continues to get worse. We have one of our companies that's even calculated they're spending about $1 million a month in rerouting fees, waiting, and just increased costs of procuring vessels and drivers. So our hope is that anytime any of these kinds of situations arise, small exporters having to beg large exporters for vessel space, that red flags would go up with the administration, that it's really, really time to think very differently about these issues. They aren't just something where we need a new demurrage rule from the Federal Maritime Commission. We need innovative interagency brainstorming. I mean, you and I have talked about the fact that we see that from both of our former roles. Why isn't USTR involved in the trade aspects of carriers returning to Asia empty, and how Chinese-owned carriers are treating our exports? Why aren't there appointed industry advisors who can regularly collaborate with a transparent interagency working group and share what they're seeing on the ground? Why does it seem like each agency is just looking at the Department of Transportation for answers when the issues we're seeing on the ground are not solely under their purview, and when it impacts so many different commodities under different agencies' jurisdictions? One congressional office recently asked me why we don't just start making more containers if we need more containers. But we need to think bigger than that. Our supply chain is complex, so these solutions need to be complex as well.